It's definitely no longer a secret that Canon are coming out of the woodwork and stepping into mirrorless cameras in a big way, especially with the launch of the EOS R. I went along to one of Canon's full-frame roadshows back in September 2018 to get some hands-on time shooting with the new EOS R. I've been looking to replace my Canon 7D Mark II for a little while now, not because it's not a good stills camera, because it is still a great stills camera, but its video ability is starting to show its age. I am primarily looking at the EOS R as a B camera to either my C100 or a C300, so is the EOS R a worthy successor? The EOS R has a very nice 4K image. It's got a lot of detail which is comparable to the Cinema EOS line, which is what I'm looking for. It's got good colours, good contrast in the image. The addition of C-Log, focus assist and peaking makes it easier to match with a C100 or C300, and it makes it just that little bit more enticing. The 4K, as you probably know from every single angry blogger and vlogger out there, is that it has a 1.7 times crop when filming in 4K, which in essence makes this a Super 35 video camera. Is this unfortunate? Yes. Does it put me off looking at this camera in terms of its video quality? No, it doesn't. There are things that I'll talk about a little bit later on that do put me off this, but this isn't one of them. If nothing else, it makes this camera visually easier to match with a C300 or C100. The low-light performance is pretty impressive as well. The noise looks more like grain than noise up to about 3200, and it's still very usable up to 6400, but that is as far as I want to push it. 12800 is a mess. Now, lots of people might be put off by that, especially when Sony seem to be able to light in any situation, but honestly, who uses 12800 ISO? Even with the 8-bit 420 codec, it is still fairly robust, and I still feel comfortable shooting in C-Log with it, and indeed editing with it. If I had an external recorder with me, I would have loved to see what the 10-bit 422 looked like. Nevertheless, I was impressed with the 8-bit. Coming from the 7D Mark II, I am very used to the handling of a professional body, and that's something I feel the EOS R is a step down in. It isn't being marketed as a professional body camera, it's more being aimed at those who are used to the 80D range of cameras and want to step aside to this new full-frame system. If I'd spent more time with the 80D, I might have found the EOS R much easier to use. But even with the handling issues, I actually found that the stills images from this camera are nothing short of brilliant. Full of rich details and sharpness, good contrast, and that excellent colour science Canon is so well known for. I had to take these images with a little bit of a pinch of salt though, as I only got to use their new RF lenses, and they are stunning lenses, but as they are L lenses, they're very pricey. I reckon with the EF to RF adapter though, you'll still get really great stills images from this if you're using EF glass. I had two scenarios of continuous light and a strobe lighting set for the EOS R, and it performed very well. The face detect autofocus was lightning fast and never let go of the model. Up until about 4000 ISO, it was a great image with little noise visible, but after ISO 4000, it's a big drop in quality. Again, I wouldn't use this camera beyond 6400 ISO. So far I've not really said anything different to what other reviewers of this camera have said before me. Over and over again, the group I was with was told that this was the most customizable camera and that this was the start of a new revolution and a new line of cameras for Canon. This was essentially the future. I'm actually going to throw a massive spanner in the works to this and say that this camera was boring to use. All of the fun of photography and filming have been taken away. From my perspective, I think that comes from this camera being marketed to consumers and prosumers. The autofocus is fantastic, the EVF makes it easy to use, the touchscreen, all of it just makes it too easy, and with it being too easy, there isn't a lot of fun to be had with the camera. To sum up my experience with the camera, I think it's fair to say that the EOS R gives me some food for thought about whether to consider this as a successor to my 7D Mark II. The video features are worth exploring, but they do seem to pale in comparison to Panasonic's newly announced full frame lineup and their GH5S, and all of their video-centric cameras. The lack of a second card slot also makes me very nervous, especially as I'm somebody who I like to have backups of backups of backups. Indeed, when I'm out filming on location with either a C300 or C100, I've also got an external recorder going at the same time. And with the EOS R, you can't record in 10-bit to both the camera and to the recorder. You can do it in 8-bit, I'm told, but not in 10-bit. I know Canon get a little bit of a bad reputation for their video quality, and I've recently had a shoot where I used the Panasonic GH5S, which had a speed booster, and honestly, the image out of that camera matched so well with a C300 Mark II and an original C300, it's definitely given me even more food for thought. The EOS R is definitely being marketed as a B camera to the C200, and on the basis of stills, the EOS R performs very well, but in a studio environment it's not really any better than my 7D Mark II, and the ergonomics of it actually made it a little bit frustrating to use. It's a head scratcher, and one I think that people need to look into, and need to consider just a little bit more before they jump in and spend the cash. Indeed, I only spent 4 hours with this camera, so you need to take this with a pinch of salt, and I need to go out and I need to rent this camera again and get more footage, more hands-on experience. I encourage you to do the same. Thanks for watching. If you've got any comments about the EOS R, pop them in the comments down below. And as always, I will see you in the next video.